Hello, welcome everyone. This is the story of Thomas. Thomas was a very successful man. He lived in a big city with many tall buildings. Every morning, Thomas woke up at 5 a.m. He did not wake up because he was happy to see the sun. He woke up because his phone made a loud noise. Thomas was a manager at a large company. He had a big office with a beautiful view of the city. He wore expensive suits and drove a fast car. From the outside, Thomas looked like a winner. People said, "Look at Thomas, he is so rich. He is so successful." But there was a secret. Thomas was not happy. In fact, Thomas forgot how to smile. Every day, Thomas worked for 12 hours. He sat at his desk and looked at numbers. He looked at emails. He answered phone calls. His mind was always full of to-do lists. I must finish this report. I must talk to the boss. I must make more money. Thomas stopped eating lunch with friends. He stopped walking in the park. He even stopped calling his mother. His life was only work, work, and more work. One morning, Thomas stood in front of his mirror. He looked at his face. He saw gray skin. He saw tired eyes. He tried to smile at himself, but he couldn't do it. His face felt heavy. His heart felt empty. He looked at his expensive watch. It was time to go to the office. But for the first time in 10 years, Thomas did not want to move. He looked at his suit and thought, "Is this my life? Is this why I am here?" He remembered a phrase his grandfather used to say, "Don't work too hard, Thomas. If you work too hard, you will miss the beautiful things." Thomas realized that he was missing everything. He was missing the taste of his coffee. He was missing the sound of the birds. He was even missing his own happiness. Thomas looked at his phone. The screen was bright. It was blinking. New email, new message, meeting in 10 minutes. For the first time, the phone felt like a heavy stone in his hand. Then, Thomas did something very brave. He pressed the button. He turned the phone off. The room became silent. It was a strange silence. At first, Thomas felt scared. What if the boss calls? What if there is a problem at the office? He thought. His heart was beating fast. In English, we call this anxiety. Many people feel anxiety when they are not connected to the internet. But then the anxiety started to go away. Thomas looked out the window. He saw a small bird sitting on a tree. He saw the way the wind moved the leaves. He realized that the world was still moving, even without his emails. Thomas took off his expensive suit jacket. He took off his tie. He put on an old pair of jeans and a simple t-shirt. He did not look like a successful manager anymore. He looked like a normal man. He walked out of his apartment. He did not go to the parking lot to get his fast car. Instead, he started to walk. He walked toward the part of the city he usually ignored, the old town. In the old town, the streets were narrow. People were not running. They were sitting in small cafes. They were talking. They were laughing. Thomas walked past a bakery. The smell of fresh bread was incredible. He realized he hadn't smelled fresh bread in years. He always bought cold sandwiches from a machine at the office. He sat down on a wooden bench in a small square. He stayed there for 1 hour. He did nothing. He did not check the time. He did not take a photo for social media. He just sat. A little girl was playing with a dog nearby. The dog was jumping and wagging its tail. The girl laughed a loud, honest laugh. Thomas watched her, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a tiny spark in his heart. He didn't smile yet, but he felt the heaviness leaving his shoulders. Thomas walked into the small bakery. The air was warm and smelled of cinnamon and sugar. Behind the counter stood an old man with white hair and very bright blue eyes. His name was Henry. Henry looked at Thomas. He did not see an expensive watch or a fast car. He only saw a man who looked very, very tired. "You look like you carry the weight of the whole city on your shoulders," Henry said with a kind smile. Thomas was surprised. "Is it that obvious?" he asked. "In this part of town, we move slowly," Henry replied, handing Thomas a warm croissant. "When someone comes from the center of the city, they always have a hurry in their eyes. They look at their wrists, even if they aren't wearing a watch. They forget how to just be." Thomas took a bite of the bread. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. He realized he had been eating at his desk for 5 years, staring at a screen, never tasting his food. He was always working hard, but he was not living well. "I have a good job," Thomas said, almost like he was trying to convince himself. "I have a lot of money. I have a big office." Henry laughed gently. Money is a good tool, my friend, but it is a terrible master. If you work only for the money, you are not the boss of your life. The money is the boss, and it is a very mean boss. It never says enough. It always wants more of your time, more of your sleep, and more of your smiles. Thomas sat at a small table. He stayed for 2 hours. He talked to Henry about the burnout. He told him about the gray mornings and the heavy heart. "Don't work too hard for a life you don't have time to live," Henry whispered. This sentence hit Thomas like a bolt of lightning. He had been working so hard to build a life, but he was too busy to actually live it. He was a manager of people, but he could not manage his own happiness. The next morning, Thomas did not wake up at 5 a.m. He woke up at 7:30 a.m. He did not look at his phone first. Instead, he went to his window and breathed in the morning air. He felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was light. It was calm. When he arrived at the office, everyone was running. People were shouting into their phones. The air was full of stress. Thomas walked to his desk. His computer screen showed 247 new emails. Usually, this would make his heart beat fast. But today, he just looked at the screen and felt nothing. "Thomas, where were you yesterday?" a loud voice shouted. It was Mr. Sterling, the big boss. Mr. Sterling was a man who never stopped moving. He had 3 phones and always looked like he was fighting a war. "I was living," Thomas said quietly. Mr. Sterling stopped. He looked confused. "Living? We don't have time for living. We have a deadline. We have $1 million deal. You are my best manager. I need you to work harder than anyone else." Thomas looked at Mr. Sterling. He realized that Mr. Sterling was even more tired than he was. Mr. Sterling was rich, but he was a slave to his company. He was a man who had everything but possessed nothing. "I cannot work harder, Mr. Sterling," Thomas said. "In fact, I am going to work less. Or maybe I am not going to work here at all." The office became completely silent. People stopped typing. They stopped talking. No one ever said no to Mr. Sterling. "Are you crazy?" Mr. Sterling whispered. "I am going to give you a raise. More money! A bigger office!" Thomas smiled. It was a real smile this time. More money cannot buy back the 10 years I lost. More money cannot teach me how to smile again. I don't want to work too hard for a life I don't have time to enjoy. Thomas picked up his bag. He didn't take his files. He didn't take his laptop. He left his successful life on the desk and walked toward the elevator. Thomas walked out of the building. The glass doors closed behind him with a quiet click. For the first time in 10 years, he did not have a destination. He did not have a meeting. He did not have a boss waiting for him. He looked at the people on the street. Everyone was walking fast. Everyone was looking at their phones. They were all living the gray life he just left behind. Thomas felt like he was underwater for a long time, and now he was finally breathing. He went to a small park near the river. He sat on the grass. He didn't care about his expensive trousers getting dirty. He watched the water move. He listened to the wind. "Is this it?" he thought. "Is this what I was missing?" He realized that freedom was not about having millions of dollars. Freedom was about having time. Time to sit. Time to think. Time to do nothing. A man was sitting nearby painting a picture of the river. He looked peaceful. He wasn't checking his watch. He was just looking at the colors. Thomas walked over to him. "That is beautiful," Thomas said. The painter looked up and smiled. "Thank you. It is not perfect, but I enjoyed making it. That is the important part." Thomas thought about his reports at the office. They were perfect, but he hated making them. He lived a life of perfection, but no joy. Now he wanted a life of joy, even if it was not perfect. That afternoon, Thomas went back to the bakery. He saw Henry again. "I did it," Thomas said. "I quit." Henry didn't look shocked. He just nodded and poured Thomas a cup of tea. "The hardest part is not leaving the job," Henry said. "The hardest part is learning who you are without the job title. You are not Thomas the manager anymore. Who are you now?" Thomas looked at his reflection in the tea. He didn't see the tired man from the mirror yesterday. He saw a man who was ready to find out. Thomas decided to leave the gray city. He sold his fast car. He sold his expensive furniture. He kept only a small bag of clothes and a few books. He bought a train ticket to a small village called Green Hills. In the city, everything was about fast. Fast food, fast internet, fast cars. In Green Hills, everything was slow. The train arrived late and nobody was angry. The people walked slowly because they wanted to talk to their neighbors. Thomas found a small cottage to rent. It was not a penthouse. It did not have a view of the city lights. Instead, it had a view of a big oak tree and a field of yellow flowers. On his first morning in the village, Thomas went to the local market. He didn't see people in suits. He saw farmers with dirty hands and bright smiles. He saw a woman selling honey. He saw a man fixing a wooden chair. "Good morning," a woman called out to him. "You must be the new man from the city." "Yes," Thomas said. "How did you know?" "You are walking too fast," she laughed. "In Green Hills, we don't run unless there is a rainstorm." "Relax, sit down. Have some tea." Thomas sat at a wooden table outside. He looked at his hands. They were clean, but they were shaking a little bit. He was still addicted to stress. His brain was waiting for an email or a problem to solve. He was learning that healing takes time. You cannot fix a tired soul in one day. One afternoon, Thomas was walking past a small workshop at the edge of the village. He heard a rhythmic sound, shh, shh, shh. He looked inside and saw an old man named Peter. Peter was rubbing a piece of wood with sandpaper. The air was full of the sweet, earthy smell of sawdust. Thomas stood in the doorway for a long time. In his old life, he worked with data and digital files. He never touched anything real. He never made anything with his hands. "Would you like to try?" Peter asked without looking up. Thomas felt nervous. "I don't know how. I am a manager. I only know how to use a computer." Peter laughed and handed him a piece of rough oak. "A computer is just a tool for the mind. Wood is a tool for the soul. Hold this. Feel the grain. It was once a living tree. It has a story." Thomas took the wood. It was heavy and cold. Peter showed him how to use a plane to make the wood smooth. At first, Thomas was too fast. He was trying to finish quickly, just like he did at the office. "Slow down," Peter whispered. "The wood isn't going anywhere. If you hurry, you will miss the beauty of the transformation. Don't work too hard against the wood. Work with it." Thomas breathed deeply. He slowed his hands. He watched the thin curls of wood fall to the floor like golden ribbons. For the first time, his mind was completely quiet. He wasn't thinking about the past or the future. He was only thinking about the piece of oak in his hands. By the time the sun began to set, Thomas had made a simple wooden spoon. It was not perfect. It was a little crooked. But when Thomas looked at it, he felt a sudden wave of heat in his chest. He looked at his reflection in the workshop window and stopped. He was smiling. It wasn't a fake smile for a photo or a polite smile for a client. It was a real, honest smile that started in his heart and reached his eyes. He realized that he didn't need $1 million deal to feel successful. He only needed a piece of wood and the time to see it become something new. A few months passed. Thomas was now spending every morning in Peter's workshop. His hands were no longer soft. They were strong and a little rough from the wood. He was learning how to make chairs and small tables. He didn't make much money, but he had enough for bread, tea, and the rent for his small cottage. He felt richer than he ever did in the city. One rainy afternoon, Thomas found an old envelope in his bag. It was a letter from his former assistant, Sarah, sent weeks ago. He had been so busy learning to live that he had forgotten to check his mail. He opened the letter. Sarah wrote about the office. She said that after Thomas left, 3 more people quit. Mr. Sterling was angrier than ever, and the gray life was becoming even darker. She wrote, "Thomas, everyone is talking about you. They say you are crazy for leaving the money behind. But I see your empty desk, and I don't think you are crazy. I think you are the only one who is truly awake." Thomas looked out at the rain hitting the green fields. He remembered Sarah. She was young, smart, and always tired. She was exactly like he was 5 years ago. He realized that his story wasn't just for himself. He had learned a secret that other people needed to hear. He sat down at his small wooden table and took out a piece of paper. He didn't open a laptop. He picked up a pen. He began to write a reply to Sarah, but it turned into something more. He started writing down the rules for a simple life. Rule 1, a busy calendar is not a successful life. Rule 2, if you don't have time for a walk, you are a slave to your desk. Rule 3, the best things in life aren't things. They are moments. As he wrote, he realized he wanted to help people like Sarah. He didn't want to go back to the city, But he wanted to open a window for the people still, trapped inside those glass buildings. He decided that once a month, he would invite one person from his old office to the village, not to work, but to sit, to breathe, and to learn how to work with wood. 2 weeks later, the morning train pulled into the Green Hills station. A young woman stepped onto the platform. It was Sarah. She was wearing a sharp black suit and carrying a heavy laptop bag. She looked out of place among the green trees and the smell of wet grass. Her eyes were moving quickly, looking for her phone, looking for a clock, looking for a reason to hurry. Thomas was waiting for her. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing an old flannel shirt and work boots. His face was tanned from the sun. "Thomas?" Sarah whispered, squinting her eyes. "You look different. You look younger." Thomas laughed. "I am not younger, Sarah. I am just resting. Come, leave the laptop in the car. You won't need it here." They walked to his cottage. Sarah kept talking about the office. "Mr. Sterling is panicking," she said. "The new project is behind schedule. Everyone is staying until 9 p.m. I feel like I'm disappearing." "Thomas, I look in the mirror and I don't see myself anymore. I just see a tired employee." Thomas didn't say anything. He led her to the small workshop behind his house. He pointed to a piece of rough cedar wood on the table. "I don't want to talk about the office today. Sarah, today I want you to make something." "I can't make things," she argued. "I'm a researcher. I write reports." "Everyone can make things," Thomas said softly. He handed her a piece of sandpaper. "Just rub the wood. Feel the texture. Don't think about the project. Don't think about Mr. Sterling. Just focus on the wood." At first, Sarah was impatient. She rubbed the wood with a lot of force, trying to finish the task as fast as possible. She was sweating. Her breathing was shallow. But as the minutes passed, the rhythm of the work began to change her. The silence of the village started to fill the room. Her shoulders, which were usually high and tight, began to drop. By the afternoon, Sarah was sitting on a stool, carefully smoothing the edges of a small wooden box. She wasn't checking her phone. The phone was at the bottom of her bag and the battery was dead. She didn't care. "I haven't felt this quiet in years," she said, looking at her hands. "In the city, there is always noise in my head. But here, it's just the wood." The sun began to set over Green Hills, painting the sky in shades of deep orange and soft purple. Sarah stood on the train platform, holding the small wooden box she had made. It was simple and imperfect, but to her, it was more valuable than her expensive laptop. "I don't want to go back," she admitted, looking at the tracks. Thomas put a hand on her shoulder. "The secret isn't staying in the village. Sarah, the secret is taking the village back with you. You can't change the city, but you can change how you live inside it. Remember, the box you are holding started as a rough, ugly piece of wood. It took time and patience to make it smooth. Your life is the same." Sarah nodded. As the train arrived, she looked at Thomas one last time. "What will you do now? Will you stay here forever?" Thomas smiled, a wide, bright smile that reached his eyes. "I am going to keep making things, and I am going to keep inviting people here. I realize that my job isn't to manage companies anymore. My job is to remind people that they are human." The train pulled away, and Thomas walked back to his cottage in the quiet evening. He sat on his porch and looked at the stars. He was a man with no title, no big salary, and no digital mask. He was just Thomas. He had finally learned that the most successful thing a person can do is to be happy with a simple life. He picked up his pen and wrote one last sentence in his journal. "Don't work too hard for a life you don't have time to live. The best work you will ever do is the work you do on your own soul." Sarah returned to the city, but she was not the same woman. When she sat at her desk, she placed the small wooden box next to her computer. Every time she felt stress, every time an email made her heart beat too fast, she touched the wood. She remembered the silence of the village. She remembered that she was more than her job. Thomas stayed in Green Hills. He never became famous. He never became a millionaire again. But every morning he woke up with a smile. He had discovered the greatest truth of all. Success is not about how much you own. Success is about how much you enjoy. Many students ask, "How can I be successful?" We think success is a big house. We think success is a fast car. We think success is a high salary. But Thomas learned that these things are often just heavy weights. They are golden cages. They look beautiful, but you are still a prisoner inside them. If you are working 12 hours a day to pay for a house you never see, are you successful? If you have 10,000 friends on social media but no one to walk with in the park, are you successful? The story of Thomas teaches us to don't work too hard. This does not mean you should be lazy. It means you should work to live, not live to work. Your time is your most valuable currency. Once you spend a minute, you can never get it back. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. So today, I want you to ask yourself, am I wearing a digital mask? Am I working too hard for a life I am missing? Take a breath. Turn off your phone for 10 minutes. Look at the trees. Talk to a friend. Remember that you are a human being, not a human doing. Be like Thomas. Find your green hills. Find your smile. Because in the end, the only thing that matters is how much love and peace you had in your heart. Thank you for listening to this story on English Junction. Your journey to better English and a better life starts with a single, slow step.